Suzanne F. Stevens, Chief Edge Optimizer for the Ignite Excellence Group of Initiatives. One of our key initiatives is the Ignite Excellence Foundation, where we invest, inspire, and develop future leaders in emerging countries. With that spirit, we produce Wisdom Exchange TV, where we interview pioneers, trailblazers, leaders of many in business, philanthropy, education, as well as politics. Today we're in Joburg, or Johannesburg. I've been here a while, so I can get away with Joburg, South Africa, with our leading lady, Jane Trembath, who is an airline captain and inspirational speaker. Jane has been flying since 1982. She is one of the first lady pilots into a somewhat skeptical male environment in South Africa. She had many proud moments with females first in South Africa aviation, but also made some spectacular mistakes, which she doesn't mind admitting, in navigating the minefield of being a woman in a man's world. Absolute pleasure to meet you finally, because I've been trying to interview you for a year, and finally made it back to Johannesburg to do that. So absolute pleasure to meet you, Jane.
Lovely too, Suzanne.
Now, what has been the most significant impact you feel you have made in your career so far?
Well, I hope that I've opened the eyes of people towards women in aviation, because that one thing you mentioned in my bio when we did the first all-woman flight on a Boeing, and it was something that just happened, it just came up, and I found out about it a day or so beforehand that we were going to be an all-female crew, and the right people heard, and it really made the news, and we made the evening news on TV, and I really felt now that I'd made a statement for women. And it wasn't only me, it was my whole crew, and so my whole crew could be proud of what we'd achieved. And it meant now that no woman could operate this airplane, we didn't need men to operate it. But more than that, it was the impact I found out afterwards that it had on other women, because months later I went into an office and this woman clerk was there, and she recognized me. She said, "Oh, you know, I was so proud to be a woman that day." And I thought it's been for so many people that it's just given us a sense of women are taking their place in aviation. So that was for me a very significant thing, that it was there to help other people realize the sense of their power as well. But these days, also in South Africa, we do have, you could say, empowerment quotas that are required to be filled.
That's
so,
the BEE.
Yes, well, it used to be called affirmative action, but it's that same principle where you will want to hire people who make up the numbers. And in more out there in general aviation, there's a lot of women trained to be pilots, and I get lots of people asking me how to become a pilot and how do they want to, young girls, they want to advise on finding jobs, which I'm not really qualified to give anymore because I've been away from that for so long. But I don't think it's such a problem anymore to get hired as a woman or as a person of colour. It's not. And I think it also stems very much on who you are. Are you someone who goes out there and presents yourself with confidence and makes you look attractive to a potential employer?
And to your point, I would imagine a lot of those women also felt, not only in aviation, but in a male-dominated world, over time, we all have a place. So, if there was one thing that you would attribute your success to, something that happened to you in your life or an attitude that you have, what would that be?
It would have to be the attitude of determination that I wasn't going to give up. Because there were times that I could have given up when things were rough. And I knew I just had to hang in there, for myself, and also I thought for other people, I thought for other women, I had to hang in there. And afterwards, when I was discussing it one day with a male co-pilot, I'd been through something particularly rough, and I said to him, I felt I had to hang in there for the girls. And he said, no, it's not for the girls, it was for all of us. So that quality of determination and refusing to give up, but I knew I was right as well. I wasn't just being dogmatic in it. That is probably the greatest contributor to my success.
This is what I call my edgeness segment. And this is something that you've had to do that has made you uncomfortable, but you've had to do it in order to achieve the success that you've achieved. So something that pushed you to your comfort zone. Do you have something like that?
My most uncomfortable moment was having to look inside of myself and realize that I could be wrong, having to find the truth. It's so easy when things have gone wrong to blame the outside world and make excuses for yourself. And sure, the outside world might have well been wrong, but I had to look inside and see what I had done that could have contributed to it, and just to really be able to see reality, because the truth, it's not comfortable, but ignoring the truth, it can lead to disaster. So looking inside to see where I could have been wrong is the most uncomfortable thing, and it's something that I have to continue doing for the rest of my life.
And I suggest we all do, because that is uncomfortable. Amen to that. What does success mean to you?
Success is taking on a challenge and looking back on it, making it work and looking back and saying, yes, I've done a good job. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a small thing to somebody else, but anything that I had to tackle that I can look back and say, I've done a good job with that.
Now, as a leader, what would be 3 pieces or 4 pieces of advice that you could share with women or men that lead a project or initiative?
The first thing as a leader is that you've got to find your own style, who you are. You can't look at other people and say, oh, well, that's the way they do it, and that's the way I have to do it. Therefore, you've got to find your own style as a person. Otherwise, you won't be successful. It's only leading as yourself, as an authentic leader, that you will be successful. Next, I would advise people to trust their gut feel. There's situations that come up where you get advice to do something and it's not right in that situation because they don't quite understand. They're not in that situation. So I would really tell people you've got to listen to that inner voice and just trust your intuition, because it's like your own personal power speaking to you. I would tell people, women especially, but men too, just to learn the skills of assertion and powerful communication. We talked about that. But that's something that made a huge difference, just knowing how not to shoot myself in the foot just by the verbal habits. It's a skill that we can learn as women to be perceived more powerfully in business. And it's something that we all have to learn, powerful communication.
Couldn't agree more.
And lastly, I'd say don't be afraid of making mistakes, because you can overcome them, and it's not so much the mistake that matters, it's how you deal with it. And you can actually show, when you're dealing with a crisis, you can show actually who you are by the way you deal with that crisis. And it might actually show you up to be a better person than you even would have been for not having made that mistake.
Okay, but let's just say you had a 10-year-old daughter. Knowing what you know today, working in a man's world for 30 years, what advice would you give to her?
That she just has to be herself and find out who she is so that she can appreciate herself for she is, and she doesn't have to be like anybody else.
What do you wish you were told at 10 years old?
I wish I was told that I was good enough as I was.
Okay. Now, is there anything that you would do differently now looking back?
It's hard to say that because a lot of things that I learned only came after I'd made the mistakes. So some of the mistakes is one mistake I made, which I never would have learned all of these things if I hadn't made that mistake. So it's hard to say. I would have preferred not to have made it. But if I'd just been a bit more aware to look inside of myself early on, ask more questions about myself, then I would have done that.
So what's next for you?
I'd love to write a book. I also do enjoy sharing what I've learned in my speaking, and let's hope that goes from strength to strength.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what are your words of wisdom to African women?
Well, just to build on what I've said, that's the absolute fundamental essence of successful leadership is confidence. Confidence in yourself, it's like your own personal power, because those qualities of confidence are the same qualities of excellent leadership.
Thank you so much, Jay, for sharing with us today. Again, my name is Suzanne Stevens, and I co-produce Wisdom Exchange TV alongside my husband, Michael K. Ginrich. We're traveling all over Africa with backpacks, interviewing women leaders like the woman we met today. If you know a woman we should interview, please email us at info@wisdomexchangetv.com. Join us on our Facebook fan page at Wisdom Exchange TV, as we're updating that regularly, as well as our homepage of Wisdom Exchange TV, where we take people we've interviewed and syndicate their blogs, and there's new information on that every single day. So join us there as well. Thanks for joining us.